everybody, and welcome to the 7 Sports Game. Tom Leyden back with you, and we have a great show tonight. We have live in studio
where's
Jim
the key?
Leyland. We have Steve Eiserman. Isaiah Thomas is here tonight. Justin, hey.
You don't work here anymore.
But we have a great show.
I know we have a great show, but you don't work. How did you even get in here?
Don't worry about that. We should tell him about the show.
You work in Boston.
But it's a great show.
I know it's a great show. Look, if you want to talk about sports, we'll have you on to talk about Matt Patricia later. Is that good?
All right.
Get out of my seat. Go wait over there.
Sorry, bud.
Unbelievable. Now we're talking. This is how it's supposed to start, Mike. Not Tom Leyden, Justin Rose in the driver's seat for the 7 Sports Game. Welcome everybody out there. Thank you so much for joining us here on this Sunday night. Mike Rothstein, ESPN beat writer for the Lions. He does so much more than that on ESPN.com. How you doing, man?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Look, we got a lot to get to in the show today. The Prep Kickoff Classic. High school football is back. That's always exciting for communities around here, coaches, players, the like. We'll have a couple coaches in here later to talk about what they're getting ready for. We also have our first vote for our Leo's Coney Island Game of the Week. And we'll let that knucklehead who was sitting here, Tom Leyden, talk to us a little bit about Matt Patricia and his experience as a Patriot, a defensive coordinator before he took the head coach job. But you know a little bit about Matt Patricia and stuff as well. You've been doing some digging and whatnot about his coaching. And I got to ask you first and foremost, it's been 2 preseason games. Give me a rate of how the city and maybe people should be feeling about this Lions team after 2, Matt Patricia said, not good games.
Well, no, they were not good, and if you watched them at all, there was a lot not to like. And Matt Patricia and players were very clear about that as well. Ricky Jean-Francois, who was with Matt Patricia in New England, now in Detroit, he actually sounded some bells of concern, saying if they play like they did the first 2 preseason games, it's going to be a long season. And I think that you can see that because, and I wrote about this actually a little bit for Monday on ESPN.com, it's the same problems, man. It's the same problems you saw in 2017. The offensive line can't block, folding up like an accordion, making Matthew Stafford have to run or get hit. That causes major problems for the run game. Defensive line can't get any pressure, can barely stop the run. That causes major problems for the secondary. And if that happens, it's going to be a rough year because this is a tough schedule, especially early on.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough schedule. But when you say it's the same problems, it's not that the team and Bob Quinn haven't addressed those problems. Now, granted, you're addressing them somewhat with rookies and younger players, some older free agents. You're not necessarily bringing in, Pro Bowlers to fill those holes. But why are they having such a hard time? Is it especially the offensive line? Let's start there. Why are they struggling?
It's tough to really say because the most interesting thing about all this to me is that perhaps their best offensive lineman so far is the guy you would think would struggle the most, Frank Ragnow. He's looked really, really good. If he translates that into the regular season, that's going to maybe be Bob Quinn's best draft pick of his first 3 draft classes with the way he's playing. But Taylor Decker, Rick Wagner, why were they struggling? They really looked bad against the Giants. And again, take all of this with a grain of salt, and in a panic meter, don't maybe be that concerned because it's not like Matt Patricia's scheming. It's not like defensively he's loading up a whole bunch of exotic blitzes. It's not like they're game planning on offense. They're just running their stuff. But you got that maybe is why you should be concerned because they're running their stuff and they're not running their stuff successfully. So what does that really say about what they were doing and how they were preparing so far?
I've watched plenty, probably more preseason games than I care to admit, but I've seen a push from a lot of other teams forward from their offensive line. And every time I watch the Lions' offensive line, it stays at the line of scrimmage or even takes a half a step or a step backwards. Is it a coaching thing? Is it a schematics thing? Are they running basic plays? Or not, are they trying not to show their hand? Is it a combination of all of that or what?
Honestly, I don't know. And sure, part of it might be that TJ Lang hasn't played. And
one guy's not necessarily going to make the unit.
No, but more than any other thing in football, chemistry is most important on the offensive line because you're relying on that guy next to you. For in TJ Lang's case, Rick Wagner and then Graham Glasgow. Having a combination of Kenny Wiggins and Joe Dahl in there, that messes with the chemistry a little bit. But
they still got time.
Yeah, Taylor Decker shouldn't have been having those problems.
Right.
And Rick Wagner, frankly, he should not have been having those problems either. And Graham Glasgow, he got hurt earlier in the week, so you don't know if he was 100%,
Sure.
but still,
right.
should not be having all of those issues. Matthew Stafford played, what, 3 drives on Friday night? Sacked twice, was running a couple other times.
Hurried on his throws.
Yeah, the run game got nothing. And that, to me, even more than the defensive issues, because some of the defensive issues could theoretically be fixed by scheming. Except for maybe the whole covering the tight end thing and running backs. That can be fixed by scheme, but the offensive line blocking, that's just a will and that's a want to, and that's a problem.
I agree with that. Let's switch to the defense, because I do find it concerning that they're not getting any push either. So, you know, like, they're going backwards. They're letting the offensive line push them back. How much is Matt Patricia maybe hiding because of schematics and different things like that? Or is he kind of seeing what they are? They just being basic right now?
Yeah,
defensively, because he's the guy that's supposed to be, we got all these different schemes to put these guys in positions to be successful, and I really haven't seen a whole lot of that.
But why would you show it now?
I agree.
Games don't count. They don't matter. I mean, let me rephrase that. They matter to the people inside the franchise. To Joe Fan, they should not care whether they win or lose. If you get upset whether a team wins or loses a preseason game, you're doing it wrong. Like, it's all about, are they looking good? And that is where I think there's a reason for concern, because listen,
they're not looking good, quite
if they
frankly.
lost both games 35-31 or 17-14, they looked good. They were moving the ball when the starters were in. They scored when the starters were in and lost when the backups were in. Okay, you can live with that. But the problem is they did not look good when the starters were in either game on offense and either game on defense, and that is where I think the massive amount of concern comes from.
What do you want to see in the third preseason game above all else?
A reasonable running back rotation and open holes for the running backs, because I think once you get that, everything else opens up. Because if a team is having to try to balance defending the run versus defending the pass, they're not going to be able to blitz and put as much pressure on Matthew Stafford. That should give the offensive line a little bit of a breather, maybe in pass protection versus a team pinning their ears back. So I would want to see that offensively, and then defensively, just anybody getting the quarterback. I think you really need to see that, because it puts guys like Darius Slay, guys like Glover Quinn, guys like the Nevin Lawson, Deshaun Shedd combination opposite them in really tough spots, because you're having to defend for that extra second, extra 2 seconds, and that's the difference between an incomplete pass or an interception and a completed pass that goes for a first down, extending a drive. So those are the things that I would want to see out of the quote-unquote dress rehearsal third preseason game.
Do you have your prediction yet?
For the season?
For the season?
I mean, I live in the 7-9, 9-7 world.
Safe play, I like that.
But here's the thing. For the last 5 years, that's where the Lions have been, with the exception of Jim